Hi all, Hiba here. So today we're looking at the Callisto protocol here on the channel, and it's a game I've been looking forward to for a very long time because I'm a big fan of these space horror games here. So when I heard about this game, I was super excited, and I've really been looking forward to it. So what it really is a horror game, pretty much set in space, well, rather on a moon, the moon of Callisto, actually. And if this seems, familiar to you, then it's because it's pretty much the same plot as in the Dead Space games. And Callisto kind of, thinks of itself as a unofficial homage to Dead Space, I guess. And Dead Space was awesome, and it's still the standard when it comes to space horror games, which is pretty amazing because the first game is almost 15 years old by now. The only other game that's really come close to Dead Space in the last 10 years is Alien Isolation, which is also one of the absolute top-notch space horror games. But back to Callisto Protocol here, because it really is pretty much Dead Space with better graphics, really, better lighting, and that's about it, really. And actually, in all aspects except for the graphics, Dead Space is better, in my opinion, and that's a 15-year-old game, like I said. One of my main criticisms of this game is that there's no map or anything to help you, and I mean, when I heard that this game was going to take place on a space prison, I thought, wow, that sounds like a really drab, place to have things happen. And unfortunately, I'm right. There's not a lot of variety. Sometimes, at one point in the game, you do get outside and you do see some other stuff, but you don't have the space vistas or the space walks and stuff like that, which you have in Dead Space, and especially Dead Space 2. The game gets a little bit repetitive, really, if you ask me. And the lack of a wayfinding tool, like you have here in Dead Space, that was really a turn off for me. I don't think the level design or the art direction is good enough to leave out a tool like that. So combat is, at least in the beginning, mostly melee based, and I don't like that. I think that's really annoying, and I mean, some people might like it, and yeah, it's just not my thing. And also, monsters popping up of grates and stuff like that, especially behind you, yeah, not my thing. You do get access to guns later on in the game, but melee will always play a role in this game here. And speaking of, jump scares, the game pretty much relies on them for the tension. It's not so much, the whole atmosphere and how you're feeling and the build up. It's all about things jumping out at you at certain times in the game, and it's just a little bit cheap. So to complete the parallels to Dead Space, you also get a gravity gun at one point in the game, and it works exactly the same way as in Dead Space. And yeah, I know, I get this is a homage to the game, but really be a little bit original here. You also have to stomp corpses to pick up extra ammunition and stuff, exactly as in Dead Space. And yeah, also healing, well, exactly the same procedure here. And you also have the how much health you have on the back of your head, and that's kind of a weird choice, but we'll get back to that. So the story is also a little bit mediocre, I think. Especially the beginning of the game is very drab and boring for a space horror game. All you do is go into the cargo room of a spaceship and jump over some boxes. Really, that's it. The story is told quite well, and the voice acting is okay. And you can see the sweat under the characters here, just like in Alien Isolation. Again, something they borrowed from a different game again. But I never got really dragged into the story like I did in Dead Space, and that's a bit of a shame, unfortunately. Some of it is told through hollow, whatever you want to call them here, and it works, but it doesn't really keep you engaged in the same way as real story, parts of the game. And also the faces, when you're used to games like Horizon Zero Dawn with exceptional mimic, then it's just a little bit disappointing here in Callisto. And also, you can 3D print your weapons, sort of like in Dead Space, a little bit different. But again, it's really nothing we haven't seen before. Like the protagonist, he's really heavy. He moves very slowly, even slower than Isaac Clarke. And he also has the same visor here. And again, I wonder, why does he have that? I mean, it makes sense in Dead Space because you're wearing the engineering suit. But here it's just something that's, hey, let's have this because Dead Space has it. And there's a few annoyances in the game. Like, you cannot traverse like this hallway here, for example. But except in some cases you can, just by pressing X and jumping over. But in this case here, you can't. And again, could use a map and a wayfinding path of some sort. Also, some areas of the map is just there to be there. I mean, here, it looks like the map continues, but then it just ends in like a flat wall with nothing. Absolutely nothing. A little bit cheap, and it kind of, pulls you out of the whole tension here of the game. There's a few areas like that, and it's a little bit disappointing, to be honest. So I bought Callisto and I played through it, and am I happy with it? Not really. I was contemplating getting a refund, but since I actually completed the game, I probably won't qualify for one. And another thing you have to keep in mind, there is an actual, like a real remake of Dead Space coming early next year, which looks amazing. And I would suggest, if you're like low on $100 for a game or whatever it is that it costs, then I would suggest you wait for the actual, like the real deal, the real Dead Space remake that's coming next year. And unless you are really, really into these games here, then I'd skip Callisto really, or wait for it to be on sale for like half the price or something. Unfortunately.